What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to part 2 of I don't know how many. I'm bringing this photo back from the previous part where to show you the smoothing plane that I was preparing. Unfortunately, the smoothing plane would not hold its settings, so I started getting lots of tear outs like you could see in this photo. The remedy was just didn't want to have to spend money and get a good plane, which varied from anywhere from like about $200 to like $400 if you got top of the line. I just don't want to play around with it, so I decided I was just going to go ahead and hand sand it. So the first steps that I wanted to do was go ahead and start finishing the boards, where I finishing the bench, where I started to go ahead and level correction, where I went to go ahead and line up each sides of the bench and cut them flush. After cutting each side flush, I had this one casualty. As you can see, this little crack here. So I didn't want to go ahead and cut again, cut the bench down another inch or so, because it might happen again. So I decided just to glue it and clamp it down and just go ahead and deal with it from this point on. While I waited for that glue to dry, I went ahead and sanded down the other end because since I went first with the reciprocal saw and then followed it with a Japanese cutting saw, it wasn't flush. So I just went ahead and took it down with some 80 grit, and also went and added the bevel with the disc sander. Wasn't necessarily perfect, but it works for me. Once I finished the end, I decided to go ahead and move on to the long sides of the bench, where I also put sort of a little bevel on not only the top part of the bench, but the bottom part of the bench, because I just figured, I have children around, my son and my niece, and if for whatever reason they came and hit their hand on the end of the bevel, I just really didn't want them to hurt. Plus, it also prevents tear outs when cutting on the edges of the bench too. So it's time to put the beeswax on here, and Wranglerstar had mentioned in his videos that wood tends to dry coming from each end of the bench, and you have two options. Really, you can paint it or you can cover it with beeswax. And I chose just to go ahead and put beeswax over the top to keep it natural. After applying the wax, it was time to check on the other end and see how the glue came out. After a quick sand, it ended up coming out pretty good, as I show you here. If you look at the crack here, you can definitely see it, but it's not too bad, and definitely something I can live with. Wranglerstar also used beeswax, but when he put his on, he didn't really show how much he put on, so I decided to give you a quick clip on what I chose to do and how much. So what you see me doing here is setting up, getting ready to use an electric planer I borrowed from a coworker. So I would go about every 8 to 12 inches and just kind of line up where the level was touching. And then once I kind of identified where the level was touching, I would kind of sort of connect the lines, and that would give me an idea on where I needed to focus each pass of the hand plane. So I'm getting ready to go into hyper time lapse now, but you'll see me just kind of marking, and then go ahead and doing the hand plane or multiple steps till I got it to what I thought was satisfactory.
And suddenly I feel your lips on me, I feel your lips on
After I used the electric planer, I went and started sanding it down, and I got it down to, went through 60, kind of smoothed the gaps from the electric planer, and then I got down to 150, and then I experimented with putting in some glue and sawdust, filling in large gaps. This used to be a knot that came completely out and was probably at least about around a 1/4 inch to maybe a 1/2 inch deep. So I filled that in and saw that it came out looking pretty good. Started playing with some of the other stuff and decided, well, let me go ahead and start filling in all the gaps in between the boards, and let's see how it comes out. So right now I'm going to let it dry for about an hour more, and then I'm going to come out here with the 60 grit and give it a go, and we'll see how the cracks fill in. After doing the sawdust and glue, I actually like how the results came out. It's not perfect, but this used to be a big glaring gap, and it filled in, looks a lot better. So I am deciding I'm going to do the top side too. Probably work on doing it a little bit better and packing it a little tighter so things like this don't happen. I think that'll mean in those particular cases where I'm trying to fill a lot, I'll need to make sure it's a little bit more viscous, and I missed a couple of spots, but not many there, and I think there. But since it's the bottom side, I'm going to go ahead and finish it, but it looks a lot better. Here's a knot where I filled in quite a bit too. So that'll maintain the integrity of the knot and it won't keep chipping away, or at least that's the hope. And I know hope is not necessarily a course of action, but that's what I'm going to do. Probably could have filled that one in too. So there's about 3-4 spots I probably could touch up. Maybe a little bit there too, but I think I'm going to go ahead and just, I've covered this with 60 grit using the orbital sander. I'm going to go ahead and finish with 150, 320, and then I'll use the 400. So this is just a close-up picture of the sawdust and glue. And we're going to go ahead and finish the video, this part right here. Next video we'll get into the oiling. But thank you for watching so far, and I'm hoping you're enjoying. All right, have a good day. Thank you.